55 or 60%. Simply because someone's thinking. It's huge. We know that it works on immune system cells. We know that it works on cancer cells. The question then becomes, why are we not utilizing this power? We understand intuitively that every other part of our body should be in our control. There's a disease called Tourette's syndrome, where in the middle of a sentence, somebody afflicted with Tourette's syndrome will spontaneously, uncontrollably burst out either into tics and movements or into inappropriate speech. It's a disease. They get treatment for it. We understand that our mouths and our heads and our hands should be in our control. Someone who sleepwalks, we understand it's a problem. We should get treatment for it. Our legs should be under our control. If as I stood here talking to you, suddenly my arms started flailing like this, you'd think there's something really wrong with her. Or if I started bouncing up and down, you'd think something's wrong with her. She should, control herself. And then if I said to you, oh, don't worry about it, those are just my silly hands. Yeah, they do that all the time. You'd think she's really crazy. We understand that our hands should be under our control. Our hands should not just do their thing and go their own way. But our minds, this incredible tool that we've been given to change our bodies, our lives, the world around us, we say, oh, that's just my silly mind. Yeah, it goes. We sit down to meditate, our mind goes in 1,000 places, and very gently and very lovingly we bring it back and we say, yeah, my mind does this. Without really the awareness that I should be able to control this. As though meditation somehow were a new special skill to be learned, like dribbling a basketball down the court in 9 seconds or less. That we're not programmed to be able to do it, we have to learn. And as though somehow having our minds in our control is just as much of a complex skill as being able to do something really, really special with our bodies. But all we're not saying let our minds turn somersaults and we should be able to make our minds do tricks, or I should be able to, raise the chair just by looking at it. All we're talking is about having basic control over it. The way we do of our arms, of our legs, of our mouths, of the rest of our body. That where we'd like it to go, it should go. Where we wouldn't like it to go, it shouldn't go. That if we find ourselves having thoughts that we don't want to have, that we should be able to say to our minds, don't do that. Don't have that thought. Like if my hand were doing this, I should be able to say, stop that. And it stops. What I want you all to understand is that we do have that power. We do have that ability. We just haven't exercised it. But it's never too late. When I was studying neurology, 15, 20 years ago, at that time they still thought that after adolescence it was pretty much impossible to change the brain, that once the brain had myelinized by late adolescence, you were really kind of stuck. But the last 2 decades, it was going on before that, it just hadn't yet become mainstream. The last 2 decades have really brought mainstream to know that no, the brain keeps changing. It keeps changing throughout life. If I take these 2 fingers and I tie them together, and I keep them tied together for 1 week, my brain will change accordingly. If I'm right-handed, and for 1 week I do everything with my left hand, I tie my right arm like this as though I had broken it, and I do everything with my left hand, my brain will change accordingly. If I'm used to wearing shoes all the time, and I go barefoot for a week, my brain will change accordingly. Tiny little things. The brain will change. So it is possible, and it is in our control. It just requires an awareness, a consciousness that says, stop doing that. Anybody who's ever had a habit, whether it's biting your fingernails or cracking your knuckles or fidgeting or anything like that, we all know that the moment we bring awareness to it, we absolutely can control it. If you're biting your fingernail and you say stop, you can move that hand out of your mouth. It's not that the finger has a mind of its own and it's going to, insist on staying in the mouth even when you're trying to move it down. It's subject to your control. And in the same way, so are our thoughts. So are our beliefs. So is everything that goes on in our mind. It's just a matter of bringing it into conscious awareness. Like nail biting or cracking knuckles or fidgeting or all of the things that we do unconsciously. The moment we bring it into conscious awareness, we can stop it. So if we can turn that same type of awareness onto our own thoughts, then we realize what the power is. Last, I don't know whether you have them here, but in California, there's a type of a bird called a quail. And I don't know if you get quails out here, but in California we have lots and lots of quails. And what makes quails really unique is that they can fly, but for whatever God's reason, they actually prefer to waddle on the ground. And so you'll see big schools of quails, and they're these little birds, and they waddle on the ground like this in big clumps. And if you come behind them with a car, it's very much like coming upon cows in India, where they don't move. But the cow doesn't move because it understands somehow intuitively that this guy's not going to run me over, because he understands something really bad will happen to him this life, next life. The quails aren't genetically programmed like that. They just don't move. And you honk your horn, and you honk your horn, and you honk your horn. Most birds, as we all know, if you get slightly close to them, they'll fly away. If you've ever had a bird in your backyard and you want to try to get close, within many feet, they immediately fly away. But these quails will just keep waddling and waddling and waddling and waddling, and you're driving behind them, and you honk the horn and honk the horn. And somehow, just before your bumper actually would hit the closest quail to you, one of them in the group somehow gets the idea, I can fly. And it flaps its wings and it shoots up into the sky. And at the exact same moment, all of the other quails do the same thing. So just at that last moment, they all manage to stop waddling and to fly. And you watch them, and the first instinct is, you stupid quails, like, if you could fly, why in the world do you spend your lives waddling on the ground? Why do you wait until the last minute when we've been honking and honking and honking? And why do you need to see one of the group do it in order to realize you can fly? But for whatever reason, that's how they've been made. But as you watch them, you think, well, we actually kind of do the same thing. We've been given this great ability, not necessarily to fly physically, but to soar in so many ways in our lives. And yet, metaphorically, we waddle around like the quails, content as though that were sort of all we were meant to do, and all that we were supposed to see, and all of the control we were supposed to have, and all of the potential we had was just to waddle around. Until and unless somehow we see someone, or we get the experience of realizing that things can be different. And what I want to share with you today is that it can be different. This mind, our thoughts, our psychology, and my PhD is in psychology, so I've seen all of this from the Western side. It is in our control. And it's in our control much more in the way of the quails than in the way that most Western psychology does it. It really is simply a shift in perspective. That's all it takes, these quails. One moment they think they're waddlers, and somehow something shifts in them, and then they know, oh, I'm a bird. And that really is for us what it takes. It's just that shift in perspective that says, oh yeah, this thing that's controlling my life, this thing that I always thought was not in my hands, that I thought the best I could do was to sort of quiet it for a while, sedate it, numb it. It actually is my greatest tool. It actually has the ability to change my internal world, my physical world, my external world, and my whole life. Thanks.
That's perfect timing.